What does it really mean for an AI to think? Today, we're diving deep into the .NET Tech lead interview gap. Senior .NET hiring relies on algorithmic trivia, ignoring architecture and leadership. 73% of new tech leads fail to meet performance benchmarks in the first year. This failure compounds architectural debt, missed deadlines, team churn. The gap costs enterprises $240K per mishire in rework and opportunity loss. Industry standard interviews were designed for developers, not technical leaders. The status quo is costing the .NET ecosystem its best leadership talent. But here's where it gets interesting. Crank methods fail. Whiteboard coding and LeetCode style tests measure algorithmic speed, not judgment. Generic system design questions ignore .NET specific trade-offs. Runtime, GC async patterns. No standardized method exists to assess mentoring, incident command, or architectural persuasion. Consequence, interviewers default to gut feel, producing inconsistent, biased outcomes. The result is a 40% higher attrition rate among tech leads hired this way. Hiring managers report 70% of candidates pass coding tests but fail in real team leadership. So, what's the real problem? Let's talk about root cause, center blindness. Interviewers lack a library of dynamic .NET native scenarios that evolve based on candidate choices. Critical leadership dimensions, trade-off reasoning, technical debt negotiation, team alignment remain invisible. Static questionnaires and case studies cannot simulate the pressure and ambiguity of real incidents. Without decision path visibility, hiring becomes a bet on charisma, not capability. This blindness leads to misaligned expectations and costly onboarding failures. Without scenario data, recruiters cannot differentiate between experienced guides and lucky guessers. This raises a critical question: introducing Interview.net Tech Lead Scenarios, a purpose-built evaluation platform simulating real .NET Tech Lead challenges. Scenarios sourced from enterprise architects, refined by community review, maintained against .NET 9 roadmap. Candidates traverse branching decisions. Each fork reveals depth in architecture, execution, and people leadership. Replaces fragmented assessments with a unified, evidence-based competency model. Built for hiring managers and architects who demand precision, not proxies. Now, .NET teams have a deterministic way to measure what matters. Now, let's zoom in on system architecture. Scenario engine, microservices-based, event-driven core serving .NET-specific contexts, cloud on-prem hybrid. Decision graph, a directed acyclic graph capturing decision nodes, consequences, and competency mappings. Assessment framework, 4 pillars: architecture, execution, team leadership, incident command scored via latent trait analysis. Integration REST API for ATS, webhook for real-time evaluation feed, SSO for enterprise security. Horizontally scalable on .NET 9, containerized with zero-trust data isolation. Supports high availability deployment with Kubernetes and Azure container apps. Here's something most people overlook: Scenario Universe. Architecture and design, migrate monolith to microservices, choose between Dapper EF Core, implement event sourcing. Performance and resiliency, diagnose memory pressure, optimize LINQ, design circuit breaker, capacity planning under load. Team dynamics, resolve a sprint commitment conflict, guide a junior on async, await pitfalls, establish a code review culture. Incident command, trig a production P0 outage, lead a blameless postmortem, negotiate rollback with stakeholders. Each scenario auto-adapts, deeper follow-ups when mastery is shown, scaffolding when gaps appear. Think about this for a second. Workflow. Hiring manager selects a scenario track aligned to role, API lead, cloud architect, team lead. Candidate receives a briefing with system diagrams, logs, and stakeholder emails realistic artifacts. Initial decision triggers consequence branching, new constraints, escalated trade offs. Follow up probes, challenge assumptions, communication clarity, and long term thinking. Evaluator dashboard visualizes the decision path, competency scores, and recommended higher, no higher threshold. Entire session completed in 45 minutes, no whiteboard, no puzzles. Sessions recorded for compliance with candidate consent. And this is where things get complex. Decision graph engine. Every choice becomes a node in a directed graph app. Edges represent cause-effect chains. Metrics, time to decision, trade-off articulation, revisiting earlier choices when new data appears. Competency heat map overlays graph green for strength, amber for developing, red for risk. Graph structure exposes decision-making patterns, linear thinker versus adaptive leader versus paralysis. Recruiters and architects use this graph to defend hiring recommendations with forensic precision. API exports graph data to BI tools for organizational trend analysis. But here's where it gets interesting: impact. Pilot with 12 enterprise.NET teams, 60% reduction in mishires, those failing 6-month probation. Average time to productivity collapsed from 5.3 months to 7 weeks. Architectural alignment score, new hires using interview.net scored 2.1x higher on post-hire architecture reviews. Team morale, developer NPS improved 18 points after scenario-based lead selection. Cost avoidance, 1.2m average savings per 20 hires, factoring ramp-up and rework. Adoption driving new industry standard for tech lead evaluation. So what's the real problem? Let's talk about old vs new. Left panel, legacy, algorithmic puzzles, generic system design, no leadership vectors. Right panel, interview.net, .NET native adaptive scenarios, branching decisions, full spectrum leadership signals. Signal to noise ratio, 0.2 versus 0.87. Hiring confidence interval, plus or 30 plus or 8%. Time per interview, 60 plus mins versus 45 mins. Candidate satisfaction, 3.2 versus 4.75. Integration with existing ATS reduces recruiter workload by 30%. This raises a critical question: roadmap. Q4 2026, Azure well-architected scenarios, live Azure Sandbox, performance diagnostics with application insights. Q2 2027, AI scenario generator ingesting org postmortems and PRs to create custom hyper-relevant cases. 2027 plus, leadership development mode for internal upskilling, succession heat maps, team calibration, long-term open scenario marketplace, community.net challenges, certification standard. Partner ecosystem, integrate with Greenhouse, Lever, Workday. Community beta program for scenario authors starts next month. Now let's zoom in on transform your tech lead hiring. Interview.net is now available for enterprise deployment. Replace subjective interviews with objective, evidence-based scenario evaluation. Onboard in days. First scenarios run within a week. Stop hiring tech leads based on trivia. Start simulating the real job. Early access program for .NET community leaders. Case studies available. Global fintech, health tech, e-commerce. Visit interview.net contact team.